we've seen Republicans try and fail to distance themselves from Trump before. The Access Hollywood tape, the Muslim ban, family separation at the border, January 6th. The list goes on. But the spectacular failure of Trump-backed election denier candidates in Tuesday's midterms and the resounding victory of quote-unquote more palatable Republicans like Florida's Governor Ron DeSantis could dramatically reshape the GOP's candidate field for 2024. And as we wait for Donald Trump to potentially announce his 2024 bid for president, reportedly on Tuesday, some Republicans are terrified it will backfire. Joining me now, Tim O'Brien, senior executive editor at Bloomberg Opinion, MSNBC political analyst, and author of Trump Nation, The Art of Being the Donald, and Matthew Dowd, MSNBC political contributor and analyst. So, gentlemen, thank you both very much for coming back to the Sunday show. Tim, the New York Times writes, and I quote, "Throughout it all, Republican officials and major conservative media figures have issued denunciations and other carefully worded complaints, but most have stopped short of actively working against him." Will this time the aftermath of the failed red wave be different?
You know, I don't know, and I don't think so based on past performance. If they weren't going to go after Donald Trump after January 6th in a more full-blooded and principled way, I'm not sure they will now. Even if they do, you know, even if the party elders and functionaries decide that he is so toxic and such an albatross around the necks of candidates in national elections, which I think he will be, I don't know that will even matter in terms of what he does. Donald Trump is not in this for the party. Donald Trump is not in this for the good of the nation. He's not in this to make the republic stronger or to help average Americans. Donald Trump has always been in this for Donald Trump. And I think what's at the front of his mind right now is he has had to deal with being labeled a loser nationally in the media, within party politics, within the chattering class. And this is someone who wants I won on his gravestone. Mm-hmm. So he is not going to sit around happily being called a loser without trying to go every length he can to address that. And so he's trying to claim that he was responsible for Glenn Youngkin. He's trying to claim that he's responsible for Ron DeSantis when he wasn't. He was, and he's got nowhere to go. And Donald Trump with nowhere to go burns things down. And what I think you're going to see now is the Republican Party is going to have to deal with this Frankenstein's monster they created, who's now coming in to take on all of them.
Matt, let's keep talking about the Frankenstein monster and who's going to have to deal with him, because despite Tuesday's epic fail, loyalty to Trump is still being demanded. Listen to this from Trump advisor Jason Miller on Friday.
What I would like to see, Steve, I do think that Kevin McCarthy needs to, if he wants to have a chance of being speaker, he needs to be much more declarative that he is supporting President Trump. I thought what Elise Stefanik did yesterday was very smart. And the fact of the matter is, it's going to be a MAGA-centric caucus.
So, Matt, I mean, if you're Kevin McCarthy and your whole reason for being is to get that speaker's gavel and you hear that, that should send shivers down your spine. But I'm wondering, that kind of declaration, is that a sign of strength, weakness, or delusion from Donald Trump?
Well, it is delusion. And I think it is a sign of weakness, as it always is with Trump and his folks, is every time they know they're in a bad place, they create this false bravado where they do this. And I got to say something about Elise Stefanik. What she did is like the person who buys a ticket while the Titanic is sinking. She's the only person in history to buy a ticket out of the Titanic while it's sleeping. I would say, here's what I would say about where we are today. This is fundamentally not a Donald Trump problem anymore for the Republican Party. And I would use the Frankenstein analogy in this way, is Donald Trump was Frankenstein. He helped create the monster. The monster now is the Republican base. And that's the part that the Republican Party has to deal with. Removing Donald Trump will not solve the problem. The problem is they've been unwilling to speak truth to their base and allowed their base to take over the village. And now the base has taken over the village, and they think removing Dr. Frankenstein from the village will solve the problem when the monster's been let loose. And the other thing I'll say about Donald Trump in preset to Tuesday, to quote the Welsh poet Dylan Thomas, he is not going to go gentle into that good night. He's going to rage against the dying of his fight. He is going to rage through the course of this. So it's not going to be solved by removing Donald Trump, which is going to be hard enough as is. It's only going to be solved by the Republican leaders speaking truth on a daily basis to their base.
Good luck to all of us on that. Tim, let's keep talking about Elise Stefanik since Matt brought her up. You know, she is the number 3 House Republican. She threw her support behind Donald Trump this week very quickly, saying, quote, "It's very clear Trump is the leader of the Republican Party and that the GOP needs to unite around his, quote, proven track record of conservative governance." I have a theory of what she's up to here, but what do you think she's up to here?
Being as completely craven as she can be, because she got into bed with Donald Trump and now she can't get out. And I think the same is true of Kevin McCarthy. You know, Stefanik didn't have a history of being a Trumpist and out into the woods like she became, I think, in more recent years, because she's an opportunist. She was revealed as someone who was willing to torch all of her own values and conservative principles in order to become part of the MAGA right, because she believed that that was the wave of the future. And it is not the entirety of the party. It's an important, motivated part of the party. It's maybe 30% of the GOP is hardcore MAGA, and it really matters in the primary season. And it could be a death blow in the general election, because independent voters don't care for it. They've demonstrated it now 3 elections in a row, and the GOP came into this theoretically with the wind at their back, though I think they pushed issues in this campaign that weren't as trenchant with the voters as they believed them to be, and they ignored the ones that really were. Be that as it may, they were running against a president with very low approval ratings, and independent voters still tilted to the Democrats because Trumpism is increasingly not palatable. And Stefanik and Jason Miller and everyone else who says people need to rally around Donald Trump are delusional.